Steep rubble mounds encircle the forgotten plaza, creating a shadowed hollow where winter's chill clings to crusted patches of snow. Only 50 yards away, a breeze rises from the sun-warmed stone of the mesa's south face, then rushes through tall ponderosas, rattling dead branches overhead. Like the air that reaches at 1 1/3 miles above sea level, the mesa's soil is thin and brittle. Yet it once supported a prehistoric pueblo large enough to include 2 central plazas and 3 massive house mounds, each several stories tall. There were more than 400 rooms on the ground floors and 5 kivas, or subterranean ceremonial chambers. Deep and circular, these were laboriously pecked out of the mesa's bedrock with stone hand chisels, mute testimony to lavish reverence for religious tradition, even in adversity. The evidence of adversity is everywhere. Thumbnail-sized fragments of pottery place the village in a time period between AD 1230 and 1290, almost surely built and abandoned in the span of a single lifetime. Even the chert nodules from which sharp flakes were once struck away to create stone tools had been worked down to stingy nubbins. And back in the ponderosas, long walls built of rough stone blocks and cobbles and then faced with dirt created a reservoir that trapped precious rainwater as it flowed down the sloping tongue of the narrow mesa. In spite of the reservoir, there were times of want. One section of the main house block's steep east wall has fallen away to expose parts of human skeletons once properly buried in masonry niches. Many of the bones are thin and porous. Chronic malnutrition, overwork, and calcium deficiencies had induced the degenerative bone condition known as osteoporosis. This prehistoric ruin, designated LA 12,700 in New Mexico's series of more than 160,000 numbered archaeological sites, is but one of thousands scattered through the high Pajarito Plateau on lands belonging to the Santa Fe National Forest and Bandelier National Monument. Some house mounds are smaller and older, built in the late AD 1100s. Others, like the gracefully circular ruin of Chuyoni at Bandelier, were founded just about AD 1300 along permanent streams in the lower canyons and flourished for many generations. This rugged canyon and mesa country between the crest of the Jemez Mountains and the Rio Grande is less well known archaeologically than many realize. In spite of several late 20th century surveys in Bandelier National Monument itself, thousands of ruins remain to be discovered and properly recorded. On average, archaeologists have found 20 sites, large and small, in each square mile that has been surveyed on foot. Careful investigation of such rugged country is slow, painstaking work. The Pajarito's 250,000 acres may hold as many as 7,000 archaeological sites. Yet, in a century of intensive research, less than half of these have actually been numbered and recorded. About 200 or so have been excavated, most prior to the development of modern laboratory and dating techniques. Still, the area around Bandelier National Monument has offered up enough of its ancient secrets to tell a remarkable story. Between scarce traces of ancient Paleo-Indian hunters of roughly 10,000 to 5,500 BC, and later occasional hunting parties and expeditions to quarry the Jemez Caldera's glassy obsidian, prized for arrowheads, the high forested mesa country around Bandelier National Monument was basically unsettled until the 1100s AD. But events that would eventually bring many refugee families to the Pajarito had already been set into motion more than 100 miles to the west. After the fall of Chaco and Mimbres society, some starved, others were raided, and many retreated into hidden mountain coves, returning to the mixed hunting and foraging economy that had prevailed prior to the rise of the Southwest's complex classic period societies. Existing highland peoples in the Guayanas area between Cuba and Lindrith appear to have been particularly hard hit by the outward collapse of Chacoan society. There, the archaeological evidence of tragedy can be found in full measure. Pit houses were laboriously dug into the tongues of high mesas, then completely palisaded. Sometimes a stockade's post holes were hand-ground into the solid sandstone of a high promontory.